Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the February 28th meeting of the County Planning Commission, and we begin our agenda by starting with a flag salute. Please join me. Yes. Okay. Do we not as organized?
Would you like me to go over the TV announcement and the roll call?
Yes, that would be wonderful, Mr. Gillis.
I'd be happy to, Madam Chair. All right. Planning Commission hearings are televised live on County and Santa Barbara Television, CSB TV, Channel 20 at 9 a.m. in the South Coast, San Ynez Valley, San Maria, and Arca areas. Rebroadcast of Planning Commission hearings are on Fridays at 5 p.m. on CSB TV, Channel 20. Today's hearing will also be streamed live on the county's website and will be available for download in a day or two. Moving on to the roll call, Commissioner Cooney.
Here.
Commissioner Reed.
Here.
Chair Bridley.
Here.
For the record, Commissioner Martinez will be absent today, but we are expecting Commissioner Park to.
Thank you. Okay, with that, do we have an agenda status report? Mr. Wilson?
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. In regards to the status of the agenda, we have 3 items on the standard agenda. We are returning for the continued item, which is the Novad Equestrian Facility, and then we have an appeal of the El Capitan Canyon Campground, and then we'll wrap it up with a 2023 Comprehensive Plan Annual Progress Report. Staff, applicants, and appellants are available to present on all the items today. I can I can move the projection report if you'd like.
Please.
March 13th. I'm looking at our projection report on February, that's today. Our next hearing is March 6th, which is going to be here in Santa Barbara. We have 3 items on that agenda. And then moving down to March 13th, we have the agricultural enterprise ordinance that we continue to that day. And I do want to make a correction on, we originally had a conversation on that, but that will be here in Santa Barbara. The reason being is that we're coordinating with our audio-visual team, and they requested us to be in this hearing room because they're still working out kinks in the North County hearing room. So we'll be in Santa Barbara for March 13th, which is the Ag Enterprise Ordinance hearing. And then moving to the calendar on March 27th, we have the housing element rezone beginning, and then we had set a special hearing for the Friday, and we do want to, we're going to move that. In the director's report, the director will bring this up, but we may want to look at moving the special hearing from Friday to the Monday, which would be April 1st, which may be an appropriate day for that continued hearing.
Oh, that does not go unnoticed, yes.
But we may want to have that conversation when more commissioners are here, but that would, yeah, be moving it from off of Good Friday to the Monday, April 1st.
Doesn't Easter break follow Good Friday? It's been a long time since I had school.
I believe it does for some schools.
Okay.
That was the first of spring break as well. In North County it is.
Well, we can't we can't chase the school district schedules because they're all different. So, okay. Then you're going to cover that, Director Plowman, in your report? All right.
So that's a spoiler alert for the director's report. So looking at the calendar, we'd anticipated having 3 hearings in consecutive order, which would have been that Wednesday, March 27th, Friday, March 29th, and then again on April 3rd. All of those hearings would be on the housing element rezones. As of right now, they're all scheduled to be here in Santa Barbara, but I'll look at the director during her report to see if any of those locations would be moving to North County. And then on April 10th, we do not have anything projected at this time, or on April 24th. So that concludes the projection report.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. So why don't we move along to the Planning Commissioner's informational reports? Do we have anybody who has to share anything? Seeing none, we will move on then to our minutes of February 14th. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, public comment. Did I did. Oh, I'm just blasting ahead. And public comment, we do have a public comment. Okay, I'm sorry. Well, this is actually, I believe, is Christine Diaz? Is she here for general public comment? Diaz, or is it, I'm sorry, this is for the Novak case. That's for later on. So this is the time on the agenda, going back to the corrective order of number 6, where we ask for public comment from anyone who's in the audience or online that is not otherwise agendized on our meeting. Does anybody have that request?
I've received no physical speaker slips. Anyone online, if you'd like to speak during this portion of the meeting for items not on today's agenda, raise your hand and I'll call on you. And not seeing any hands.
Okay. Well, then we're doing this very well because I'm doing it twice. Now we go to the Planning Commissioner's informational reports. Does anyone have anything to share? I don't think anyone shook their head in favor. Okay. Then we will continue on to the minutes, item number 8, and we have February 14th to approve.
For discussion purposes, Madam Chair, I'd move approval of these minutes as submitted.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Reed. There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Is what we do. We don't
Aye.
roll call.
Just say
Aye.
aye. Aye.
There you have it. Nice job. It's one of the rare times 0 corrections. Great. Okay, and now we get to the director's report, our headline feature.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I have a short report this morning. I guess we should start off with the housing element rezone process. We did get some concerns expressed to us about holding a hearing on Good Friday, that some members of the, or some of the property owners that are being considered for rezones could not attend on that date. So we are looking at setting a second hearing for that Monday, following Good Friday. So we wanted to just get a sense. We'll
Do it when we have more.
when we have more people, but that was the sentiment. The hope is, and I've been working with the CEO's office. We're trying to have enough hearings, but also move as quickly as possible to bring the completion to the project and the program. So when other members come back, we'll discuss that a little bit more. But
And since we don't have Commissioner Martinez, how do you want to handle that? You want to get an answer
is he not
today?
here? He's not here
He's
today.
not here today.
Okay. We'll have to email him.
Okay.
But if we can get a sort of a sense that everybody else can attend, then we'll reach out to him.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Secretary Wilson indicated that we could put it on the calendar and then just go ahead and check with everybody. Does it work for all the commissioners present today, that Monday?
What is the date?
It would be April 1st.
April 1st.
It works for me. Commissioner Reed, are you okay?
So far, it looks open. Yeah.
Okay. You know? Commissioner
Yeah,
Kenny?
I will be here. I might have to leave earlier than the end of the day if there's a baseball game, but
Okay,
we'll come to that.
okay.
It will be the second hearing. Hopefully we'll have bled out some of the others.
Yeah, and we will look, I think the North County hearing room will be open by then. So we may want to schedule one of our hearing dates up there
For sure.
to make sure that that community has access to
Yeah.
the public
Okay.
component of it.
Okay. So we do we do anything official to get that on the projection report, or
Madam Chair, after the director's report, we could take a motion and
Mm.
to set this special hearing. We'll
Okay.
just keep both of them on the agenda. And then once we coordinate with everybody, then we can decide which one to remove.
Okay, all right, thank you. So just as a reminder, we have the workshop that the Board of Supervisors is holding on the 19th. And so they will be getting presentations from the developers on some of the proposed rezone sites. And what will happen is the developers will make a presentation. It's going to start at 2 p.m. in this hearing room. And they'll get the board will get the presentation. Then we'll take a break, and there will be tables out in the lobby where all the developers will have boards representing their project. They'll be there to be able to answer questions so that the public who's attending and board members and anyone else can ask questions and explore the projects a little bit more in detail. Then we'll come back into the hearing room and have public comment. There's no action. It's just a workshop. It's just to receive information.
Will that be televised?
Yes, we are going to televise it. So the presentations will be captured and the public comment will be captured, but the break that we take at the tables will not be. Yes.
Well, thank you for that. There's been a lot of discussion in the community about how that's all going to work, and I know I plan on being there. I'm sure Commissioner Park is going to be there to our workshop, and that will be very informative. Thank you for explaining that.
Sure.
So, I mean, the goal of that is to have the developers, the applicants, get some feedback from the board on it, or just public exposure.
I think it's the developer's opportunity to explain what they're including in their project, what kind of public benefits they have added to their project. The board can certainly ask questions. The board has already expressed in a board hearing what they're interested in seeing, what they think is important. And so this is the developer's opportunity to respond to that.
Okay, and so we can use a conjunctive learning opportunity for the commission, and then and then it goes to the commission, then it goes to the board for
Correct.
direction. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Did anyone have any questions about that?
Yeah.
Welcome.
Okay. And then the just recent board actions, the board approved the ordinance amendment package that implements the new housing bills. So that was last week, I think. Last week. And then I just have a couple of items about future upcoming board items, and that is the appeal of the cell service equipment in Isla Vista on Camino Mallorca. Then we have the Quayside H development agreement. I'm sorry, that goes on the 5th of March. Then we have the Quayside H development agreement that goes on the 12th of March. Of course, we have our rezone workshop, and then we have the Music Academy appeal on May 7th. I did want to let you know that we have our long-range work program going to the board on April 2nd.
Okay.
And I think that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Anybody have a question? Your light's on there, Mr. Cooney. Anybody? Okay. All right. Well, that concludes the director's report, and that brings us to our
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I think I'd like to get a sense from Commissioner Park as to
Yes.
whether or not we received a comment that our originally scheduled special hearing for the housing element rezones is on Friday the 29th, which is Good Friday. And some members of the community have expressed that they won't be able to attend, and some of those people are owners of properties that are being considered for rezones. So we're looking at moving that potentially to Monday, April 1st, and wanted to know if you're available on that date.
Yes.
Thank you. And we were looking at having one of those hearings in North County.
So now we would make a motion?
Yeah.
Is that what you want us to
That's even better.
do? Isn't
Yeah.
it?
And now I'm not in the mood to expound on why.
It's an excellent opportunity.
the roads are not fun coming south. Go ahead.
So, Madam Chair and Commissioners, it seems we have a consensus. There's 4, so we can take an approach where we could just cancel the special hearing on the Friday and just set a special hearing on the 1st. And then we'll coordinate with Commissioner Martinez offline.
And we need to make sure we check the availability of the hearing room in North County as well.
For the Monday,
Yeah.
for the Monday the 1st. What does the commission wish to do? Should we just cancel the Good Friday?
As well.
Okay. Do we need a motion for that? Okay.
So moved.
I will second.
Thank you. Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 We have to do the same thing for
So-
April 1? Okay. Motion to set a special hearing for April 1?
So moved.
I will second.
All right. Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There you go.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm happy that there's going to be a North County hearing. That's great. Okay, that brings us to our standard agenda. And Mr. Villalobos, do you want to read that into the record for us? Oh, sorry, I guess you were just drinking.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The following is a hearing on the request of River and Ranch LLC to consider case numbers 21 DVP 24, 21 CUP 26, and consider adoption of the mitigated negative declaration, case number 23 NGD 10, and mitigation monitoring program contained in the conditions of approval.
Okay, with that, we continue to our, our disclosures by the Planning Commission of, I'm not going by the list very well, ex parte and site visit disclosures. Does any commissioner want to do that now? Since our last hearing? I've had none. Seeing none? Okay, then why don't we proceed with the staff presentation?
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Staff is back today to present on the Novat Equestrian Facility Project, which is a development plan and conditional use permit for a commercial equestrian facility located between Buellton and Solvang. I think everyone's pretty familiar, but here's a quick look at the vicinity map showing the project location. As a reminder, it's a 63-acre parcel off of Highway 246, and the parcel is zoned Ag 140. The project was last considered by your commission 2 weeks ago on February 14th. At that hearing, the item was continued, and the commission directed staff and the applicant to clarify some components of the project description regarding the nature of special events and daily operations. Part of the commission expressed concern and was opposed to non-equestrian events as a part of the project, and there were also concerns about the number of mitigation measures. Based on the commission's feedback, the applicant has opted to make the following changes and clarifications to the project description. First, the 12 annual special events will no longer include non-equestrian events. Previously, the project description noted that the 12 annual special events could include equestrian or non-equestrian events such as weddings or receptions. With this change, the 12 annual events will be limited to equestrian events such as educational events, horse shows, clinics, or other events that are equestrian related. Second, we clarified that the facility will not be limited to boarding of retired horses only. The facility will be open to both active and retired horses based on demand. And lastly, the project description has been clarified to note that there will be training and riding sessions for boarders by appointment with a maximum of 3 appointments per day. Previously, scheduled visits for boarders was available by appointment with no specified limit on the number of appointments. All other components of the project will remain the same as previously presented. The full text of the revised project description is a bit long to put on a slide, so I wasn't planning to show it here, but it is included in full with the memo and staff attachments. The changes and clarifications being made to the project description do not affect the analysis or conclusions made in the M&D that was prepared for the project. The 12 annual events will be equestrian only and will have the same limits on the number of attendees, hours of operation, and amplified noise as as was analyzed in the MND. Opening up the facility to non-retired horses would not change daily operations, intensity of use, or staffing levels beyond what was previously analyzed. And placing a limit of 3 training or riding appointments per day will achieve the applicant's vision for the facility, and average daily trips and greenhouse gas emissions will remain below their respective significance thresholds. As revised, the project continues to comply with all applicable policies of the Comprehensive Plan, the Santa Ynez Valley Community Plan, and the LUDC, including the development standards for the Ag 1 zone. As was discussed at the last hearing, environmental review for the project was analyzed in a very robust MND, which resulted in 24 mitigation measures for the project. The MND references several technical studies that were completed to ensure that the project avoids any potential impacts. And since there was some concern about the number of mitigation measures being high, on this slide I've grouped the measures into 2 different categories. 14 of the measures are what staff would consider to be standard conditions that are broadly applied to projects in the county. These are things like design review, tree protection, erosion control in accordance with grading code requirements, construction hours, and designated construction equipment and washout areas, just to give an overview. And the remaining 10 measures are special conditions that are based on specific recommendations from the technical studies or to address a project-specific issue. Examples of special conditions from the project include the Animal Waste Management Plan, biomonitoring, wildlife surveys, and other avoidance measures from the bioreport, amplified noise limits from the acoustic analysis, and the parking and traffic control plan, which we modeled after what is required for winery special events in the county. Although 24 mitigation measures may seem like a high number, more than half are broadly applied standard conditions, and most of the special conditions are avoidance measures meant to avoid impacts rather than to mitigate a direct impact. So in conclusion, as revised, the project remains consistent with the Comprehensive Plan, the Santa Ynez Valley Community Plan, and the LUDC. Therefore, staff recommends the Commission make the required findings for approval of the revised project, adopt the MND and mitigation monitoring program, and approve the revised project, including the requested modifications, subject to the conditions set forth in attachments 2A and 2B of the staff memo. The full text of staff's recommendation is on the slide, and that will conclude staff's presentation. We're available for any questions.
Thank you. Does the commission have specific questions? Certainly. Commissioner Park.
I do. I have 2 specific questions about the project description and one that's more general. Let's start with the project description ones. Could you go to slide 4? The last bullet point talks about the maximum of 3 appointments per day. And so my first question is, what is an appointment? Is an appointment, I go to see my old horse and say, let's walk into the round pen and play around a little bit. Maybe I'll take you in the arena and ride for 20 minutes. Is that an appointment? Or is an appointment I schedule a trainer to come and give me a lesson? Or both?
We can defer to the applicant team, Commissioner Park, through the chair. However, that is what we had in mind. If anyone was coming to the site to visit horses, we were considering it to be an appointment.
So if I personally don't think that's a very good idea, because people that are boarding horses like to come by at any time, and they may not know what they're going to do until they get there, and they might want to take their old horse out on a lead rope or this and that. That's different than a trainer who makes an appointment to come there. So I would hope that the maximum of 3 only applies to training appointments or something of that sort, and not to visits by owners, because that would be very restrictive. But what's the point of the maximum of 3 anyway? That's the second question.
Excuse me, Commissioner Park, through the chair. We have to put maximums on things to do a CEQA analysis, and to study traffic impacts for our environmental review. So that's the impetus behind that.
And that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But I recall in the first project description we saw, there was no maximum at all. And now we have a maximum, and it's 3. And so when I saw the first one, I thought, well, there probably somebody might ask for a limit. And I can see that, but 3 seems like a really small number.
I
And,
think
and if there's some scientific analysis that says 3 is better than, say, 8 or something like that.
Yeah, Chair Bradley, members of the commission, Commissioner Park. 3 was what we had discussed with the applicant team. Originally, the applicant proposed and analyzed in their trip generation study many more trips than this for visits. However, it pushed them over significance thresholds, and they cut that entirely out of their project description. So based on the comments that were made at the prior, and then what we had put in instead was a more general appointment only on a limited basis. Based on the feedback at the last hearing, we put a number to that, and that is what the applicant said that they wanted. They, in theory, could do more. I mean, that we are presenting the project description from the applicant.
Let me suggest something, because I want this to be flexible and work for the applicant, and I want it to work for the community, and I want us here at the Planning Commission and planning staff to be proud that we do reasonable things, and I want to show that. So what I would suggest is that, given that they're not going to be running a 24/7 appointments operation with training and so forth, it's limited to probably 8 hours a day and say 8 hours per training session. If we have to have a limit, let's make it a limit of 8 instead of 3, and not include within the definition of appointment a visit by an owner. And I think that'll work a lot better. Will that cause traffic problems that upend our MND and so forth?
Commissioner Park, through the chair, any visit from an owner needs to be accounted for somehow in the calculation of average daily trips. So I do think that it needs to be included in what's encompassed by an appointment.
Okay, so let's given that, let's have a
Yeah.
larger number of appointments, and you tell me what will work, so that with the traffic count thing. I mean, if
Commissioner
we
Park,
say,
let us look into the analysis that we looked at, because there was a tipping point, and
Yeah.
if there was a tipping point, that would require more mitigation. So we don't want to mess this up. So we just may need a few minutes to look into that.
I agree with you totally.
Okay.
Commissioner
Thank
Park,
you.
I know we're actually in questions, so that was a really good long question. But did you have any other questions before we get into more deliberations?
Yeah, this goes in a completely different tack, and that's why I'd rather get this answered first, but I will if you want me to go ahead. This property is located in a place where there's a lot of effort to put in a river trail, and the Recreation Master Plan contemplates that, and that's completely up to the property owners whether they ever want to participate in that or not. But what I want to know, and I know you, Ms. Mitchell, understand the Rec Master Plan and what's going on there because you're working on it. Is there anything in this CUP that will interfere with the owner's decision to participate in the recreational master plan that would be different if they weren't making this application today? You know, anybody along the way could participate in that. And I want them to have that same right, but I don't want to find out if they decide to do that a year or two from now, that there's something in this CUP that poisons any opportunity to join in the Recreation Master Plan. I know that's a general question, but you're a smart person and you're working on it, so take a shot at answering.
Commissioner Park, through the chair, I mean, the Rec Master Plan is still being developed right now, and you make a good point in that we want it to be open to applicants like this and not have them be limited. So I can take that feedback and make sure that it's implemented in the rec master plan,
Well,
ordinance.
let me give an example. Let's say they decide to open some facility for the public in general, and that's incentivized under the master plan. It's on their property. Does this CUP limit people walking from the trail over to whatever facility they put in? That's the kind of thing I don't want to have show up by accident to interfere with the workings of this.
Commissioner Park through the chair. This project isn't near the river. You know, it's not. There's no components of the project within the vicinity. It's, you know, more than 500 feet away from there. So if they want to propose something like that in the future, it will have to be analyzed. But I think I don't foresee any issues with that in the future.
Commissioner Park, yeah, we're pretty comfortable that this would not preclude any future trail option that would come before us.
That's great. And by asking that question, did that give you time to look up the tipping point?
Tara Bradley, Commissioner Park, the tipping point would be 24 appointments or visits to the site per day.
Well, then I would suggest we alter this project description again with of course their authority, their consent, to go to that 24, and that will give them a mixture of people visiting, you know, kind of social visits with the horse, and it's not going to lead to 24 training appointments a day. They couldn't do it, and so it'll work to naturally limit this to something that's reasonable, and I think that would be good for the project and good for the public.
So let's wrap that into our deliberations, which are probably right around the corner. But first, any other questions? Commissioner Park, you were on a roll. Are you done with your questions?
I'm done.
Okay. Well, we'll be looking to you during deliberations. And Commissioner Reed?
Yes, I have a few questions. First, just could you give a more exact or fuller definition of what the term retired means? I think to the layperson and to me as a non-horse person, when I see retired horse, I'm thinking of an old nag about one step away from the glue factory, but I don't think that's correct. I think my understanding now is retired means simply a horse that may no longer be fit for competition, but otherwise quite competent for recreational riding and that sort of thing. Is that what it means? Oh, could you tell me what it means then?
It's not.
Okay.
Mr. Chair and
At all.
Commissioners, the conversation needs to be at the mic so
Oh.
we can capture it.
Okay.
So we might want to wait till the
I'll see.
applicants
All right.
come up.
Okay.
I apologize, but
Okay.
you need to capture that.
Another observation. I noticed in the revised project description, and I don't want to seem like a nitpicker, but I did spend several years writing instruction sheets for dentists, so I like language to be pretty precise. I noticed the first couple of references, you talk about equestrian events, then later on you talk about equestrian special events, and then another point you talk about special events. Since we've eliminated non-equestrian events, in all of those cases, are we describing exactly the same thing, an equestrian event? That would be to staff, since I assume you wrote that. And if they are describing precisely the same thing, could we just work through the language and make every reference in agreement? I notice it's the preponderance of references throughout the rest of the material talk about equestrian special events. But if pick one, and if they're all the same, I would like it if they were all the same.
Yeah, Commissioner Reed through the chair. Yeah, we did that just to try and reiterate that it was equestrian only, but I agree we can call it one thing and make that change throughout if that's what you prefer. Whatever.
Most people probably wouldn't care, but to me it would be a
Yeah.
good thing to do that.
Yeah.
And then one final one. I believe you already answered it. I was just interested in the linear distance between the manure processing facility, the composting facility, and the river. Yeah.
Commissioner Reed through the chair. I have a site plan on this PowerPoint. So This down here was the previous manure area and is being removed as a part of the project. The new one is way up here out of the floodway. I don't know exactly what that distance is, but way above the arena, you know, compared to Highway 246 is over here.
Right. Okay, I've seen all the mitigation measures for the manure composting facility, and since the area between that and the river is pretty heavily vegetated rye pasture, I think that would be a pretty effective buffer. Yeah, okay,
Agreed.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Cooney, did you have some questions?
Not many, but it did occur to me that because night lighting is so important in the valley, that I should ask the question about the restrictions on night lighting. I understand the activities are said to conclude by 10 p.m., but that doesn't necessarily mean lights would go off. Could you just go back over the lighting restrictions?
Yeah, I think we, Commissioner Cooney, through the chair, I believe we wrote it into the project description that all lights would be out by 10 p.m.
All lights.
Yeah. Well, you know, lights for events, besides just safety, you know, standard lighting for residential uses. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and also we'll talk about this in deliberations, but I also have a concern with expanding the number of car trips by the suggestion that Commissioner Park made. So at the appropriate time, we should talk about that rather than just pick the high number.
I have one question, and it has to do with the where did you write in the thing about lighting? I'm looking on at paragraph 2 on page 2 of 2 of the memo. Is that where it is? I just see that, you know, 7 to 4 for open visits, and then the events concluding by 10 p.m. So is there a separate one for lighting, or is that a condition?
Chair Bridley, there's a separate condition.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I can find that condition number right now if you want.
That's okay. That's okay. Okay, so seeing no other lights on for questions, that would bring us to deliberations. And actually, it would first bring us to the applicant's presentation. I'm just zipping ahead. Sorry about that.
Well, good morning, Madam Chair and Planning Commissioners, and thank you again for our time this morning. I just wanted to say a couple words, don't have a presentation. I first wanted to thank Tina and Shannon and Travis for their help and support of this project and their recommendation of approval. I wanted to thank Lisa Novat for her patience through this long, expensive process. And I also want to thank Lisa for her flexibility at this late hour to be willing to change the project description to accommodate the revisions that we've talked about over the last couple weeks, as recommended by Commissioner Park, and in order to gain both Commissioner Park's support as well as the Commission as a whole's support. And lastly, I want to thank you, Planning Commission, for considering the project. For those of you that visited the site, this beautiful site, and for your thoughtful comments, which I believe make this a better project for the Valley as a whole, Santa Barbara County, and our region. We support the revised project description, including the additional visits talked about this morning, which sounds like we'll talk a little bit more about, and agree to the conditions of approval. You've stated how important equestrian facilities are in the Valley, and we agree. And we hope that we have gained your support for this project. I do have a statement from Lisa Novat that I'd like to read. My husband, Gary, who's here this morning, and I purchased this parcel in 2020 with the intent of creating an equestrian center to share with the community. I have been a lifelong horse enthusiast, and Gary has followed in my footsteps. Our vision is to create an equestrian facility centered on all disciplines of riding and education. Horses are remarkable animals. They are used not only for recreation and competition, but also for mental and physical therapy, agriculture, police work, search and rescue, and in some areas of the world, transportation. Humans and horses have coexisted in a domestic relationship for over 6,000 years. It is our hope to continue to educate, offer equestrian events, and let this community enjoy the magic of the horse. We respectfully request your approval this morning, and we're here to answer any further questions. Thank you.
Does the commission have any questions for the applicant? I have one. I noticed in the project description that you or staff dropped out the word retired horses. So maybe this is going to be a more general equestrian center. And I didn't know if that was helping like financially or there's just a need for that. And I don't know if that changes the visitor flow to the site. It sounds like we have from staff sort of a upper level threshold and we can, work within that. But I was just wondering why the focus is not on retired horses now.
You want to?
Madam Chair, it was so we would not be limited. So, and actually I have the retired horses there now as an overflow from our home ranch. But the vision for this River End Ranch was to have all sorts of levels of horses, ages, riding, non-riding. So,
Well, the clarity in the project description is probably good, and
yeah.
more flexible for you. So thanks for that answer.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, so we're completed with the applicant's presentation and, I have to ask staff, is there anything else they want to respond to before we go into deliberations? Actually, no, I missed it again. We open this up for public hearing. Sorry, gang. And we do have one speaker slip. Christine Dewis. Thank you. 3 minutes, please.
Good morning.
3. Yeah.
My name is Chris. I moved to the San Ynez Valley 5 years ago from the Bay Area, primarily because of the phenomenal equestrian community that the Valley has in general. And I know many people that have done as well. So I am familiar with individuals and organizations across disciplines within the Valley and in Santa Barbara. It's a thriving community and a community that is well respected throughout the state of California and even nationwide in some respects. So I am here to pledge my support and the support of many equestrian friends of mine and individuals throughout the state that I know through competitions that this project be approved because we feel it would bring a valuable asset to the community, not only for us as individuals and equestrians, which obviously is a little selfish because we would like to see that community stay vibrant and evolve and still be a really great asset for the Valley in general. And also speaking in terms of the broader Central Valley, as far south as San Diego and as far north, as Paso, we only have one covered arena that can host any educational events or horse shows or anything. And I travel frequently throughout the year to horse shows. These horse shows are individually well organized, well maintained, brings in great clientele. And it not only is advantageous for the horse community, but also it impacts the public in general. We bring in revenue for hotels, we bring in revenue for restaurants, we bring in, visitors. I've also seen it have a positive impact on the tourism in Solvang, because people from LA that come up, they love to come to the horse events, ask questions. I think it really is an integral part of the beauty of the Valley. And we welcome that. It's really neat to be able to expand that. So I'm an individual that's here just in support of it in general. I've known the Novats. I know they've been well respected for 30 years. They run a phenomenally organized and respected retired horse farm adjacent to that. They've been on several boards, Santa Ynez Valley Equestrian Center, Therapeutic Board, Fiesta Board, so they're well aware of management and organizational issues. I feel like they've addressed everything in a very timely and organized manner. I think you guys have really well thought about this. It seems like a phenomenal facility. So I would just hope that it would pass and that we would be allowed to have this opportunity to use it. I'm a psychologist and I ran a special needs therapy program for years in the Bay Area. And horses change people's lives, not just in competition, but through education. So, and just interaction with them. So I would hope for the ability for us to continue that
Thank
for
you.
the valley. Okay.
You're
Thank
right on the money with 3 minutes. Thank you. Do we have any other people online?
If you'd like to speak on this item, raise your hand now if you're attending online, and I'll call on you. Seeing no hands raised.
Okay. That means we would close the public comment portion of the hearing and then go back to questions and comments from the commission to either staff or no? Maybe?
No, I can wait and give
Okay.
my view in deliberations.
All right, then I think we're sliding into deliberations. So, as tradition has it, we turn to you, Commissioner Park.
All right. Having non-equestrian events at something like this would have been controversial, might have led to an appeal and denial of this. And that was one reason I wanted to see it narrowed down. I think it still works well for what the Novats want to do. I think that whoever revised the project description, I'm sure it was a collaboration of staff and their agent, did a good job. There are a few questions about retired horses. That phrase is used very loosely in the horse community and has no presence at all in the definitions in the LUDC or anywhere else. And that's one reason I was concerned about that. The definition simply is moot at this point because the way the project description's been revised, it doesn't limit it to retired. I point out with my own horse, Remington, he was very well known. He and I did his last 50-mile race at the age of 30, and I retired him. After I retired him, he led 3 months of Botanic Garden expeditions into the San Rafael and Dick Smith Wilderness for the for the Santa Barbara Botanic Garden surveys they did. He participated in search and rescue and supposedly saved 6 lives by the last count. So that's a retired horse. Now, we just don't need to have that kind of language in here that would haunt these owners at some later date. Is it a retired horse, not a retired horse? It doesn't make any difference. What makes a difference is the traffic count. That's where we go to. The tipping point is, to use our staff's word, and I think that's good use of the word. I could pick a number between 3 and 24 and make myself feel good, but that would be like playing pin the tail on the donkey. I mean, somebody's done some professional survey work and determined that it could go up to 24, so I think we should have that. As I said, as a practical matter, there will not be 24 appointments for trainers there. You couldn't fit them in. And it will fit the logical number of trainers that could fit the facility and allow for a few visits by owners, which will be nice. Because if owners can't visit their horses, they won't want to use the facility, or more likely, if we have a limit, they will completely ignore it. And why get the owners in trouble for that? So I think that's the reasonable thing to do. I've basically expressed my point of view that I would support this with these changes, and I will.
Okay, Commissioner Reed.
Okay, as you know, when I came and first saw this project, I was struck by how something that appeared to be relatively straightforward could become so complex. But I suppose that's life here in Santa Barbara County. I appreciate the great deal of time and expense the applicant has made to bring things to this point. I appreciate the many accommodations they have made to regulators and to the county and to us I think they've been very forthright, and I appreciate the fact they've done these final modifications pursuant to our requests. And at this point, I would be very pleased to be able to vote in favor of approving this. So,
Thank you. Commissioner Cooney, do you want to add in something?
Well, yes, I support the project. We're down to the details in terms of any differences. When I first was presented with the staff's report, what stuck out to me was the number of square feet that we were going to approve in this project. It was, I think the number was over 83,000 square feet. And putting myself in the position of a neighbor, I thought it would possibly make a significant difference. But we've had 2 hearings, 2 very well-staffed hearings, and I haven't heard that opposition to the number of square feet of the buildings. What I do know from all the projects that we've reviewed in the valley, night lighting is an issue, and traffic is an issue that we should pay attention to in any project of this scope. I appreciate that we could the number of 3 appointments really narrowed the use of the facility. Perhaps that's more than reasonable, and we could back off that to another number, as long as the project doesn't have to be revised. I could live with the 24 trips, but what I don't want to do is entirely eliminate the requirement that the trips be unlimited to people who may be boarding or taking other advantages of the facility. Every new development needs to harmonize with what's there, and so I'm reluctant to go above the 24 trips per day, and and yet I will go to that level, which seemingly we can approve without amending the project description.
Thank you. And when we're talking about trips, are we talking about 24 ADT, which means 12 cars in and 12 cars out? So that's like 12 visits. Or are we talking about 24 visits, 48 ADT? So 48 ADT is the threshold. Okay. So it sounds like the commission has very comfortable, position with that, and we can include that in the project description, or how does staff suggest you want to memorialize that? Oh, and my recommendation would be that you just include the upper level, because that way the applicant doesn't have to come back for anything, or if they discover that they have, shorter appointments, then they've got the most flexibility, and we're all staying within the CEQA umbrella.
Commissioners, I think if you agree on the 24 in your recommended actions, you could just sort of add, if the Secretary thinks this is okay as well, and to amend the project description to allow 24 appointments as directed by the Commission, then the staff would do that. Oh yeah, in addition to, we would edit to make the events uniformly described. Yeah. I'm comfortable with that being directed, but we'll see.
Okay. I'm seeing a lot of discussion here in front of me, but if that's the direction from staff, then we would look for a motion to that effect, right? Unless Secretary Wilson, are you trying to interject anything with that?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I think it's clear what we're asking. We just want to make sure the commissioners understand what they're voting on. So it's a revision to the project description, and we want to get a head nod from the applicants. If 24 is the max and that complies with the CEQA analysis, that's fine. We just want to make sure that the commission understands what they're voting on. So the recommendation is to put the language on the screen so we know exactly what we're voting on.
That seems like a good
And then
idea.
the actual motion would be as revised today.
Okay.
The project description as revised today.
And I would
Do-
like the applicant to put that on the record that they're okay with the change.
Okay. Good idea. Do we want to take a 5-minute break so staff can write that into the project description and put it on the screen? Is 5 minutes
moved.
enough? Okay. Now I know what that means. All right, returning to our deliberations, and we have a revised project description on the screen for everyone to follow along with to capture the changes the commission just discussed. So why don't we take a minute to quietly read that? Any questions? You guys are faster. You guys are turning. You're faster than I am. So, all right. Let's proceed with potentially a motion, huh? Oh, you wanted to get the applicant to confirm that they were accepting that. I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, Planning Commissioners, yes, we approve the revised project description. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now with that, let's bring it back to the commission for a motion and vote. Commissioner Park, you're the guy.
Let's put the recommendation slide back on. There we are. I will move to approve the project pursuant to the recommended actions set forth in the slide on the screen. Subject to the revised project description, do I need to read the recommended actions into the record? Good, then I won't.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And then we do a roll call?
Happy to.
Okay.
Commissioner Cooney? You don't.
Oh, then we don't have to. Okay. Everybody in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. Good luck. Okay, now we need just a couple minutes to transfer staff over to our next item, right?
So before we start our next item, I see a lot of people in the room, but I think I've received 2 speaker slips. If it's your intent to speak on this item, if you could complete and submit a speaker slip, that'd be great. Thank you. Madam Chair, should we go on break? Can we go on break for a
Yeah,
couple
let's
minutes?
call it.
Okay, great.
What, 5
Thanks.
minutes? Yeah.
5-minute break.
Okay, thank you. So we're continuing our Planning Commission hearing of February 28th, and this brings us to item number 2. Mr. Villalobos, will you read that into the record?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The following is a hearing on the request of Doug Kern, representative for Gaviota Coast Conservancy, appellant to consider case number 23 APL 35, an appeal of the Central Board of Architectural Review's preliminary design review, approval of case number 23 BAR 1, and after considering the environmental review documents, addendum dated November 1st, 2010, together with previously adopted negative declaration, case number 04 NGD 81, determined that as reflected in the CEQA findings, no subsequent environmental impact report and negative declaration shall be prepared for this project.
Thank you. And I've talked to both the applicant and the appellant in this matter and agreed that they could each have 25 minutes for their presentation with 5 minutes of rebuttal. I don't know that they have to take that time, but there's a lot of information in this case. We all thought that was reasonable. And due to the interest in public comment, because we have quite a few speakers, we're going to ask public comment to also be limited to 2 minutes each. So with that, we would continue on with our ex parte and site visit disclosure. Who wants to go first? Commissioner Reed?
Yes, I had a request from Beth Law, a legal representative of applicant, and I did, pursuant to that, have a team meeting with her and the representatives of the project. I also spoke with representatives of the planning department.
Thank you. Commissioner Park?
Yes, on this last Monday, I had a site visit with the applicant team, and I don't think I need to recite all their names. I'd screw up the last names anyway. And then after that, I had a Zoom meeting with representatives of the of GCC.
Okay, Commissioner Cooney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had visits with the parties both by Zoom with Beth Collins and Hugh Brownlee, and I think maybe architect Neiman, but I'm not sure he was on the call. That was last week, and then this past Tuesday, another Zoom conference, this with Anna Citron, counsel for the Gaviota Coast Conservancy, and Doug Kern, the executive director.
Okay, and I had mirrored that also. I had a site visit on Monday with the applicant team of Beth Collins and Mike Neiman and Hugh Brownlee. And we just went around all of the sites in the appeal matter. And then that same day, I also had a teleconference meeting with Doug Kern and Anna Citron with the Gaviota Coast Conservancy. Excuse me. So, following those ex parte disclosures, I wanted to explain that we have quite a bit of written material. I mean, I don't know if we hit 220, but I was reading into hundreds of letters, and several of them came in beyond our cutoff date for length. And so I wanted to just explain that and ask the commission if they were willing to accept 3 letters that arrived late because of their length. One of them is from a Roger Himovitz, a second one from Fish Wish, which is longer than a page, and then a third one from Rubii Estes. So those would require a motion to be brought into the record.
Madam Chair, just for the record, that second one from Fish West, that's the name is signed Allison Massini.
Oh, Allison, I apologize.
And so, because this requires a 4/5 vote, because Chair Martinez is missing today, it would require all 4 of you to vote in the affirmative.
Okay, so how did we want to proceed on that? The commission has a typical negative review of that, but I'm going to let you guys discuss it. Commissioner Cooney had your light on first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a sensitive issue for me. Over the years, we have discussed it many times. The problem we face as commissioners is that we have a great deal to review, often in a relatively small amount of time. And so we we do have this deadline, which is well publicized, of noon on Monday to receive all written materials, which are over a page long. The example, a reason why we have this rule and why we adhere to it is the letter from Mr. Himovitz, which is 2.5 pages in length, and there's a great deal of material in there that I believe we have from other sources. So I don't find the justification to make an exception to accept his letter. And so my feeling is that I would not vote in favor of admitting any of the 3 letters in question in this case.
Okay. Commissioner Reed?
Yeah, I normally don't support admitting things that arrive late, but I'm a bit in a quandary because I received the Himovitz last night, read it, got here early, read the other 3 already, so I would find it difficult to unread them, but
Okay.
so I would grudgingly vote to exclude.
Well, we don't have a motion yet, so
I don't
let's
know.
wait.
I don't know.
This is takes time.
Yeah, so I'm in a bit of a quandary, so I'll just leave it at that.
Commissioner Park.
Believe it or not, I can find a way to try to convince you that I can agree with both of them at the same time. And I got to tell you, these last minute letters really make me crankier, because you get something like this Roger Himovitz letter. It has lots of important information. I didn't even know about it until the commissioner to my right sent me a text saying, "Have you looked at this?" And I hadn't, and I probably wouldn't have seen it. I have not seen these others. I've tried enough cases to know the old adage, you can't unsee something. And I think that the commissioners who have read this, whether they admit it or not, will internalize what they see in Mr. Himovitz's letter. And it creates a grave unfairness. And I brought this up with respect to that oil exploration well last month or whatever it was, that, to get matters that we see and get them at the very, very last minute means they may or may not make it into the public record. And there's little or no time for the public or opponents or anyone else to respond to them. And we don't get a fair hearing. And because we're not getting a fair hearing and getting all the information from both sides, we don't make as good a decision. So this thing's already under consideration. I think it should be in the public record. I think that the various members of the public and opponents and the proponents should have an opportunity to refer to it, review it. I don't even know about the other 2 letters. I've never seen them. Same thing with them. So what I want to do is include them in the record, but that's contingent upon there being a continuance to this case. I'm not moving right now for a continuance to this case. I want to see I want to observe the public hearing today. I think it's important, and we may decide to continue it. And if we do, then I would allow this into the record. And then there would be, so many days or weeks for people to review it and respond appropriately. So that's how I am agreeing with all the other commissioners.
It's a miracle. Council, do you have do we trail this? What do we do with this?
Madam Chair and Commissioners, so the purpose of taking up the question of what's in the record at the start of the hearing is to allow interested parties and the public to know what's in the written record before they provide public testimony. So I would recommend that you make a decision now as to whether to include this document in the written record. With that said, the substantive testimony within that document, if it's not included in the record, project opponents or the applicant will be able to address the substance of it in their presentation. And lastly, if the document is not in the record and commissioners believe that what they've read may influence their ultimate decision, I would recommend that that be addressed through ex parte disclosures before the start of the public hearing.
I don't understand that last part. If,
Madam Chair and Commissioners, there was some discussion that the document could not be unread. If there are matters within that document that commissioners will be relying on in their deliberations, I recommend that that be identified for the public at this time, regardless of if the entire document is included in the written record.
okay. Well,
Should I make one of those disclosures?
sure.
Yes, I want to disclose that I received by email a document that I read at approximately 10 o'clock last night. A lengthy, dense, single-spaced letter from Roger Himovitz, former owner of the project, relating to the whether there's vesting or not, and that it has important information. And I know what it says, and nobody else in the audience does, because you haven't had a chance to see it yet. And there's my disclosure.
Okay. Commissioner Reed.
Yeah, I have a disclosure and a question. Commissioner Park and I were discussing on the phone his site visit. During that period of time, that letter came through, the Himovitz letter came to my email, but not through David Villalobos, like most all of the other correspondence does. That's why I sent a text later after our call concluded to Commissioner Park asking if he had seen that one, since it came in by some outside method. And then the second to that, in the interest of not having my decision to admit or exclude these letters tainted by the fact that I have read them, and tainted by the suspicion even that my decision to admit or exclude had something to do with the content of the letters. Can I abstain from voting on that?
Commissioner Reed, through the chair. So the way that the documentary record gets established is there are rules about the time at which documents must be received. And so you have 3 documents that were received after that deadline. So they're currently not in the documentary record. So they are excluded, and to be included, your commission will need to make a motion. And as Mr. Villalobos indicated, you'll need a unanimous vote today for those documents to be included in the documentary record. Otherwise, they would be excluded.
So you could choose to abstain, or you could choose to vote no. I mean, it's his prerogative, right?
To clarify, yes, Commissioner Reed, you could choose to abstain. A unanimous vote would still be required.
Sorry for those people following this discussion. This is like government in action, but it's an important matter because there's a lot to unpack on this case. So with that, do we want to try a motion now, or I know Commissioner Park indicated that he was willing to accept them contingent on a continuance, and we're not at that point. So do you have an idea?
You're right. We're not at the point to make the kind of motion I described. And I don't think that we're at the point to make any motion on accepting these. They are not accepted by matter of law and policy unless we move to include them. And it may be that somebody wants to move to include them after the hearing or near the end of the hearing. Who knows what? And then staff can tell us whether we're allowed to make a motion like that or not. Or we might make some other motion to continue it so that these things can be in the record and allow the community at large to be included in the process instead of seeing secret information. So I think we just do nothing right now and wait to see what the hearing turns out to be.
Okay, I'm okay with that if council's okay with that, and just then the people who wrote them have to know that. Hopefully there it was. Slippery slope.
So, Madam Chair, there's other information that just came to me. Can we take a 10-minute break?
Oh, 10 minutes. Okay.
Yeah. It may be faster than that, but I'm guessing it's going to take 10.
Okay.
10-minute break after all these. Is there an impending earthquake or
Close.
war?
but-
Oh my God!
Well, actually,
Well,
I shouldn't
tell
say
us
that
if we
on.
need to run to our cars.
All righty. Okay. We'll take a 10-minute break. reconvening the County Planning Commission. And we are beginning with our item number 2, which is the appeal of El Capitan Canyon Campground. And I would ask, oh my gosh, did we already do this? Yeah, sorry, already. That's a bad sign. Okay, so we're into staff presentation, and I understand that there's been some more information through staff, and we want to hear about that.
Madam Chair, we took a break a few minutes ago, as we have just been notified by the applicant's team that they're requesting a continuance. So we wanted to bring that to the Planning Commission's
Attention.
for consideration. Sorry, I just had a mental block. I just
Join the club.
just blocked out there for a second. So anyway, so we want to bring that up to the Planning Commission for consideration. So if we want to entertain that request, my recommendation is that we have the applicants come forward and make that request formally on the record, hear from the appellants. We'd have to take public comment on just the continuance, not the subject matter. And then we can move forward. That's if the Planning Commission wants to has a desire to entertain that request.
Commissioner Cooney?
Well, I think Mr. Wilson said we should hear from the applicants, but the appellants are really the first we should hear about because it's their hearing, and the applicants could respond to that. But yes, we can hear the appeal, even though it's incredibly late in the process. We should, I think. That's my feeling.
Commissioner Park?
And we're always in a quandary, especially today. We're in a lot of quandaries. And you know, from the applicant's point of view, it's a big project. It's one they've been struggling with for a very long time, and they're doing their best to do a good job. And if they believe that they need a continuance to respond to the things that have come up today, I can understand why they would want to do that. From the public's point of view, a lot of people are here to speak, are set up to speak, and it would disappoint me if they couldn't speak. On the other hand, from the public's point of view and the appellant's point of view, no matter how dismayed they might be in this process kind of taking a sidetrack, there's material that's been front of the commission that they ought to see and they ought to digest and have an opportunity to respond to. So I think if they're a little cranky like I am about needing to continue it, they should realize that they'll probably do better if they have an opportunity to review it. So I make a long story short, I think we need to hear the applicants explain why they want a continuance and listen to them. And then I think we should hear from the appellants and make our decision after that.
So Madam Chair, I know the commissioners are talking about this. But we
need a motion.
No, well, yes, we do eventually, but we do need to have the applicants actually formally request it. So as of right now, it's all hearsay and we don't have it formally submitted. So if we could just have the applicants come on record and just make that request to the commission, then we can continue the discussion. And then as Commissioner Cooney had talked about, we also need to hear from the appellants as well. So if we could just get that on the record that they're requesting a continuance, and we can move forward.
So hear from that first, and as opposed to make a motion.
Correct.
Pending.
Yeah, we need to hear from both
And then,
parties.
of course, our Chair Bridley can say, well, let's dispense for the time being with the staff report and go directly to the applicant so they can speak to this. That makes sense, does it not?
Yeah. Just on the continuance matter.
So Madam Chair, what I'm talking about right now is just having the applicants get on the mic and just formally make that request.
Okay. Okay, so let's hear the applicants. Actually, are we respecting what Mr. Cooney just pointed out, that it's actually the appellant's first?
Well, that's fine. Ms. Collins
Okay,
is
you're
here.
there.
Let's hear from her.
Well, and she's the one requesting a continuance.
Chair Bridley, Commissioners, hello. I'm Beth Collins. I'm a land use lawyer for El Cap Campground. We would like to request a continuance, and the reason for that is This Himovitz letter is obviously it's a substantial letter. I respect what Commissioner Cooney and the other commissioners said about late hits. I am also not a fan of late hits. I appreciate the Santa Barbara policy not to put in substantive long letters after the deadline. In fact, I recently shared this with someone in another jurisdiction who's very interested in this because of the late hit problem that is pervasive in land use. So I'm sympathetic to that. Nonetheless, the Himovitz letter is very important, and it was submitted in part because it came to our attention that there's been a lot of misinformation that's been spread and about this project and the history of this project and what we're here for today. And the Himovitz letter, because he was intimately involved in this history, really speaks to that. So I think although we are interested in moving this project forward, it was permitted in 2010, and we are, implementing those approvals. Nonetheless, I think it's a good idea to postpone so everyone can hear everything in one hearing, and then this body can make a decision at that hearing. So with that, we do request a continuance, and we hope you grant it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Collins. Can we hear from the appellants? Thank you.
Hi. Good morning, Chair Bridley and Commissioners. Anna Citron, Legal and Policy Director for the Gaviota Coast Conservancy. This is unfortunate. I'm a little cranky. As you know, we have a lot of people that have taken time off work to be here and to speak. And I want to thank all those people and the effort that they've made and all the public comments they've submitted. It really shows the level of interest in preserving the Gaviota Coast and its viewshed, and we appreciate that very much. That said, the Himovitz letter presents something of a conundrum, and we are reluctant to go forward, having heard from Commissioner Reed and others about the situation that this puts you in. And we feel that coming back and being able to make a cohesive presentation, taking into account all of the information that has been submitted, will benefit the Commission in your understanding of this project, and it will benefit the public and clearly the applicant as well. But I think that is probably the best way to proceed. We would accept the continuance request, although we don't relish having to come back here. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Ms. Citron. Thank you. Okay, so with that, I think it's back to the commission to generate and vote on a motion to continue the item. And
Madam Chair and Commissioners, we can go back to the commission to have a discussion, but we do need to have public comment.
on the continuance,
If the
yes.
commission, if the commission wants to take a motion to continue it, we need to have public comment before you make that motion. If the commission isn't desire to entertain the request, then we can just move forward. But if the commission wants to make a motion, either way, then we need to have public comment on the continuance.
Okay, so
only.
do I do a polling, like a straw vote concept now, or just discussion about it before, and then take public comment on the inclination to continue? I think that's what you're
Madam Chair, that
advising.
works if you would like to do that way.
Okay, so let's see. Commissioner Cooney.
I think my light was on from the beginning of this discussion because I was I was remembering a similar conversation in Superior Court before Judge Floyd Dodson, who one of the parties was seeking a continuance for a very good reason, I think, but he not only said no, but he said, if you want to continue this matter, it has to go before a different judge, not me, because I'm prejudiced against the party asking for the continuance. In this case, I think, first of all, the attorneys involved are absolutely qualified, and I was am excited to hear their arguments and the presentations. They're special attorneys, they're specialized, and they're good people. So they both asked, and assuming we can hear from all the people online and those who want to address the commission today, I'd be in favor of granting the request to continue the matter to a date acceptable to all parties.
Thank you. Commissioner Reed?
Well, I'm glad that my concern on receiving that Himovitz letter outside of the usual chain of custody for submissions to the board has been recognized. You know, if these letters were your usual pro and con, wouldn't have been a concern. But, and then secondary to that, I think it is appropriate to have a continuance so that that can properly be included in the record. And then I think it would also be appropriate at this stage to allow some public comment on the continuance, as myself having participated both on behalf of applicants and appellants in a great many hearings in front of various boards in this county and others. We need to recognize the commitment and inconvenience of people preparing to make public comment. So I would very much be in favor of affording them the opportunity to make comment relative to the continuance.
Correct. That's the intent, consistent with staff's direction. And Commissioner Park?
You know, like Commissioner Cooney, I pushed the button for my light before we even started talking about further public comment, and that's because I wanted to beat Mr. Pettit and Mr. Wilson to the punch in saying we ought to have public comment. I was kind of proud of myself, but Mr. Wilson subverted that. But I'm like Commissioner Cooney in that I think we have very good counsel on either side. And if they think that it should occur, then I think there probably should occur. But I want to reserve my decision on that until we have that public comment. Somebody on public comment may convince me. If we don't allow people to try to convince us on public comment, what's the point of hearings? So I would like to do that. But I personally believe we will have a better hearing and a more fair hearing if it's continued. But like I said, I want to hear from the public. One thing, Commissioner Briley, you might consider, and I like it that you might consider because you're the chair of the day, and so I don't have to think about these things. And that is, for those members of the public that can speak today and not in the future, and they want to speak in general, do you give them a little bit of public comment time on the merits, or do you not? And I'm glad it's your decision and not mine. And I hope Mr. Wilson doesn't tell me it becomes our decision, because I want it to be your decision. So there.
Okay, thank you. I'm getting an indicator from staff. Is there something you want to contribute to that before we render a motion? And actually, we would ask for public comment on the concept of continuing this, right? But don't we get a motion on the table first?
Madam Chair, you don't need a motion on the table first, other than you are going to consider it.
Okay.
To Commissioner Park's comment, the public comment will be only on the continuance. Okay. If we wanted to open up public comment on the matter at hand, we'd have to open up the public hearing, and we have a request for a continuance. So right now, the public comment would only be for whether or not to continue the item.
Okay.
There's going to be temptation to speak on the project, but it's really only to speak about the continuance.
Okay. So I think at this point, we're going to open a public comment for just the consideration of continuing the hearing.
And Madam Chair,
Do we have...
sorry, I'm catching up, rusty today.
Oh.
I think looking at staff, they had identified a date of April 10th as a continuance date. But we can move it down here.
Okay.
But we can move it. I mean, it's listed as Santa Maria, but we can have that relocated down to this hearing room. But I think if public comment is going to be on the continuance, they need to have all that information. So staff is proposing that we would continue it to April 10th.
Okay.
in
April
Santa
10th.
Barbara.
April 10th in Santa Barbara. All right. So with that, I have actually one speaker slip submitted on that topic. Do we have anyone else online that might have raised their hands for that?
Right. So I was going to ask you a question if you want to do the in-person request first or online, and then also if we do have speakers, did you want to stick to the 2 minutes?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
Okay, so with that, we have one speaker slip from the in-room folks, and that's Mariah Moon, perhaps.
Myself, but I just wanted to propose a thought or a question. Why was Himovitz late in submitting a letter, and is that a part of his plan? And we're not going to answer that. I just want to voice that thought, and I'm here to support what the Gaviota Coast Conservancy has to say, so I support that continuance, but it does put us all in a predicament of maybe not being able to attend the hearing in the future. So I just wanted to voice that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I just want to point out for the record, too, that there were actually 3 letters that exceeded the length to it. Himovitz got a lot of attention, but there were 2 others that are under consideration. So, anybody online on just the continuance matter?
We do have 3 hands raised. The first speaker will be Sherry Noble, to be followed by Maya Jamal.
This is Sherry Noble, and I had raised my hand before one of the breaks, so I no longer wish to speak.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Jamal, to be followed by Kelly Lopez.
Thank you. Oh, there's no camera. Okay. I guess in the future, what I would request is that we have a lot more time as the community. Thank you. I'm glad that this is being postponed, but we found out Friday, and I'm sure it's been on your calendar for last time we had a meeting on a different Gaviota Coast issue. It had been on the record and calendar for a month. And so it just seems it is extremely unfair for the community not to be able to have enough time to prepare, to actually be there, because we do have to take time off of work. It is a huge inconvenience, and it was an even more huge inconvenience because then we can't get the information we need to get to the community to represent the project in a way where, it really truly deserves. But bottom line is that I'm really disappointed in Roger because he has donated so much land to the state and done so much good work. And Chuck Blitz, former, he's an employer of mine, but a good friend. I'm friends with the whole family, and they've always worked really well with the community to protect the Gaviota Coast. And I always felt Roger didn't do this because he knew that we would be in opposition and he didn't want to be the bad guy. And I'm just a little bit bummed because Roger, you can do better. That's just my opinion, but and please next time allow us to have like a camera also so you can see us. It'd be less, more impersonal. But thank you so much, GCC, for all your hard work and everything you're doing. And El Cap Canyon folks, why don't you just put this in a place where we don't have to see it? It's right in our face, right in the El Capitan Meadow, which is kind of interesting that it's even called that.
And you're actually getting into project merits, and we just have to keep this really focused on the continuance. Ms. Jamal.
Yeah, thank you for the continuance. We appreciate it. Please give us more time as the public, and please respond to like how much notice we actually get so that we can actually prepare to be there, because the whole families want to be there, and we will come in numbers. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our last hand up is Kelly Lopez.
Ms. Lopez?
Hi, I'm a member of the Coastal Band Chumash Nation, and I just wanted to chime in and maybe suggest that y'all make a motion and vote on making or extending the public comment period if you are going to consider those letters, so that maybe people that were like, oh, the comment period's over, I can't send in something. Maybe they are allowed to send something in, because honestly, I don't think y'all would have considered extending comment period or considering a letter if it wasn't for Roger. So yeah, if you could give us all the same respect in maybe doing that. Also, it might make meeting procedure a little bit more in compliance. I don't know what kind of compliance. I haven't read your guys' bylaws, but it just feels a little kind of borderline out of compliance. You guys talking about and putting so much weight in this meeting, where a letter that came in after public comment is being so heavily considered and weighing so much on the decisions that are being made right now in this meeting. So yeah, maybe suggest that you guys make a motion on extending public comment period if this is if you guys are gonna move that direction. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
We did have an additional hand go up.
Okay.
So our next speaker is S. Toth.
Could you repeat the name?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, could you repeat your name, please?
Well, I don't want to say it because I'm going to get a lot of hate. I
Oh.
live in Gaviota.
Okay.
I drive by there every day. And I think from the freeway, you would see this development very little. And thus far, the Sun community have been fantastic new neighbors. And they bought the ranch below, which was for sale for a decade. And they plan to sort of bring back some horse life into Santa Barbara, which I think would be fantastic. I mean, perhaps the Pony Club could be there.
Pardon me,
Kids
is this
that were in
on
the
the
Santa Barbara
continuance?
Pony Club are now having to drive all the way to
I'm
Selden.
sorry, ma'am. We're
Yes.
only taking comments now on whether to continue the item today, not on the merits of the case. So,
Okie doke. Bye-bye. Thank you. I
Thank
don't
you.
understand.
So, Madam Chair, there were a number of speaker slips that were filled out on the item. I'd recommend that we just allow anybody that would want to talk on the continuance have that availability in person. We don't have to call their names, but if they want to come up and identify themselves on the podium, we can do that. Otherwise, we can move forward with the motion. And just a clarification on one of the public speakers, if this item is continued, the public comment period will reopen until the deadline for the next hearing, whenever that is.
okay, so your recommendation is take the public speaker slips that we had for that case and just limit it to continuance requests.
So, Madam Chair, what I'm recommending is that you as a chair could just say anybody that would like to speak on the continuance that's here today can come to the podium and just give their name.
Okay.
If there's no takers, then we can move forward.
Okay, I think that's a good idea. I could read the names that I have, but you all know what you filled out. And is anyone in that group wanting to comment on just the continuance here? Yes, please come forward.
Yes.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Warren Powers, and I would be in favor of the continuance in the hope of letting everybody digest this new information and come up with a proper decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so just save those for next time. So I think that closes the public comment period on this item, and it brings it back to the commission for consideration of a continuance vote. Who wants to tackle that? Oh, Park, Commissioner Park?
Yes, I'll move for a continuance of this matter to April 10. Did I hear that correctly? Okay. I'd like to make an additional comment. I'll keep it brief on the reason for it, but should we wait for a second and deliberations on the motion first?
Good idea. Yeah. Is there a second?
I will second.
Okay. Commissioner Reed seconds. So, Commissioner Cooney, you had your light on. Did you want to deliberate, or were you waiting a motion?
Well, let's let Commissioner
Park.
Park make his.
This is just a point because I want to be as even-handed as possible. I commented at length about this letter and how important it was for everybody to see it and so forth. And that may have created the impression that I thought it was underhanded of Mr. Himovitz to send this in at the last minute, or somehow underhanded of the applicants. I don't believe that. Just with the hurry up and wait process we have here in the county, where things take forever, and then all the hearing stuff is compressed. I can understand Ms. Jamal saying, gosh, the agenda report, things come out on a Thursday, she sees it Friday, and then we get 200 plus form letters making the conclusionary statement that there's been no vesting, that the CDP is expired, and I'm presuming that's why Mr. Himovitz decided to write a letter. And so I don't want to blame anybody for what's transpired today. It just is what it is. Blame me. I don't know.
Thank you, Commissioner Park. So we have a motion and a second on continuance date to April 10th. So do you want to do a roll call vote on that? Or does anybody want to discuss it? Commissioner Reed.
Well, I would certainly support the extension till April 10th, just in the interest of having a much more robust and comprehensive discussion of all the material that has just come before us. And we've received a few comments from the public speakers that it might allow more robust public comment, preparation, and discussion of the issue. So I would certainly be in favor of it.
Okay. Anybody else want to comment on the motion? Seeing no lights, then we'll ask for a roll call.
Commissioner Cooney?
Aye.
Commissioner Park?
Aye.
Commissioner Reed?
Aye.
Chair Bridley?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Are you on the next one too?
Still shorter than it was going to be.
Hey, can we go?
So the commission's going to be moving to the next item on the agenda. If we can ask the folks from the last item to take their conversations outside the hearing room. Thank you.
Anna.
Yeah. Outside the hearing room for the conversations. Ms. Citron? We're getting ready for the next item. We actually have something more to do. Thank you.
Would you like me to read the item into the record?
Yeah.
Okay. Following is a hearing on the request of the Planning and Development Department Long Range Planning Division that the County Planning Commission receive and file the 2023 Comprehensive Plan Annual Progress Report.
Okay. Racing ahead now on our next item. With this item, we don't actually do ex parte communications, right? Because it's a staff administrative item. So we're moving faster than expected, and staff is getting ready. So we'll just pause a moment.
Well, they're here and they're smiling.
You ready?
Thank you for being at the ready. That was not expected to be so soon. Thank you so much for being here. With that, we have Mr. Villalobos read it into the record.
I already did that.
Okay. Oh, it's a good thing that our hearing is going quickly, so I can get out of this chair. Okay. Staff report. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Bradley, members of the Commission. Long Range Planning is pleased to present the 2023 Comprehensive Plan Annual Progress Report to your Commission today. We have our project manager, Brianna Alameda, who will lead off the presentation.
Thank you all. My name is Brianna Alamia, and I'm here today with Danielle Moore to present on the 2023 Comprehensive Plan Annual Progress Report. So the Annual Progress Report is also referred to as the APR. It's a state-mandated report that provides information regarding the implementation progress of the county's comprehensive plan and the county's progress in meeting its Regional Housing Needs Allocation, or RHNA, in 2023. Government Code Section 65400 requires the county to submit the APR to the Board of Supervisors, Governor's Office of Planning and Research, and State Department of Housing and Community Development, or State HCD, by April 1st of each year. The county also submits the report to the City of Santa Barbara in accordance with policies in the Mission Canyon Community Plan. The 2023 APR includes information on the county's Housing Element Program implementation progress. Two examples of these programs are shown on this slide. The board adopted the 2023 to 2031 Housing Element Update in December of 2023, which contains 25 programs to help meet the housing goals and needs of the unincorporated county. Given that the housing element was not adopted until the end of 2023, this report analyzes and assesses the progress of the previous housing element's goals and policies that were still in effect. In addition to the housing element, county staff also made progress preparing other comprehensive plan amendments, including the safety element and environmental justice element. The APR also summarizes the county's progress in meeting its RHNA for the 2023 to 2031 housing element period. 2023 marked the first year of the new cycle. RHNA progress is determined by the number of building permits the county issued for new housing units in 2023. This includes permits issued for housing units such as single-family dwellings, multifamily dwellings, accessory dwelling units, or agricultural employee dwellings. Previously, State HCD did not include replacement units, such as demolition and disaster rebuilds, towards the RHNA progress, but as of 2022, these units are now included. Group quarters, such as dorms, are still not included. The APR reports the estimated affordability level of each housing unit based on the 2023 state income limits, which are adjusted for household size and available local housing data. Local housing costs are researched and estimated by zip code, and therefore the affordability level of most units depends on their location. In some areas of the county, even small units are not affordable to lower income households, and therefore the county cannot automatically assume that all ADUs and agricultural employee dwellings are affordable by design. As you may be aware of, the unincorporated areas of the county were allocated 5,664 housing units for this new cycle's RHNA period. For the first time, the Santa Barbara County Association of Governments, or SBCAG, divided the county's RHNA into two subregions, the South Coast and North County. The county must accommodate 74%, or 4,142 units, of its RHNA in the South Coast, and 26%, or 1,522 units, of its RHNA in the North County. This table shows the number of building permits the county issued for new housing units, organized by income category within the unincorporated South Coast in 2023. The last row of the table shows the county's South Coast RHNA for each income category for the planning period. The county issued building permits for 85 new housing units in the South Coast. These included 6 manufactured homes, 61 ADUs, 1 multifamily dwelling of 2 units, and 16 single-family dwellings. As shown in the table, the South Coast was issued 0 permits for very low, low, and moderate income units in 2023. This is only the first year of the new 8-year planning period, and the county has time to continue making progress toward reaching its allocation. However, as the county continues permitting few low-income units, it continues to fall behind on meeting its RHNA and remains subject to SB 35, which will be discussed in a later slide. This graph shows the same information as the previous slide. the number of building permits the county issued for new housing units in the South Coast in 2023, organized by income category. The blue columns show the South Coast's total issued building permits, while the yellow columns show the South Coast's new RENA allocation, with the last column showing the combined total. With an allocation of 4,142 new units, the South Coast will need to produce an average of over 500 new units annually. In 2023, the South Coast only produced 85 units, which is over 400 new units short of what is needed to stay on track for this planning period. So far, the county is falling short on producing units for every income category for the South Coast allocation. I will now turn it over to Danielle to discuss the North County RENA progress and complete the remainder of this presentation.
Thank you, Brianna. To continue, this table similarly shows RENA progress for the unincorporated North County. The last row of the table shows the North County's RENA for each income category. In 2023, the county issued building permits for 157 new housing units in the North County. These building permits consisted of 7 manufactured homes, 2 agricultural employee dwellings, 80 ADUs, 1 multifamily dwelling of 3 units, and 65 single-family dwellings. As shown in the second to last row, the county issued 68 North County permits for low-income units in total. As you can see, the North County has not made any progress towards its low-income RENA. This graph shows the same information as the previous slide, the number of building permits issued for the North County in 2023. At 157 units, the county is almost on track for keeping up with the average needed 190 new North County units per year for this planning period. The North County is on track with above moderate income and low income unit production. However, the North County is falling short on its very low income and moderate income unit production. Now I will discuss the implications of not meeting the county's RENA. As your commission may recall, planning and development staff presented amendments to the inland zoning ordinances in regards to Senate Bill 35 in January of this year. The board adopted the revisions to these amendments earlier this month. As a refresher, Senate Bill 35, codified at Government Section Code 65913.4, establishes a mandatory, streamlined ministerial approval process for qualifying housing developments. SB 35 only applies to jurisdictions that have not met their pro rata share of RENA or have not submitted APRs. HCD releases SB 35 determinations annually in June, which takes into account permit data from the previous year's APR. Since June 2018, state HCD has found the county out of compliance with meeting its very low income RENA. Therefore, the county is subject to SB 35. Accordingly, the preparation of the APR is an administrative activity that does not authorize new development or otherwise result in physical changes to the environment. Therefore, the preparation and submittal of this report is not a project and is not subject to CEQA. Accordingly, staff recommends that your commission take the following actions. Receive and file the 2023 Comprehensive Plan Annual Progress Report. Authorize staff to provide the annual progress report to the Board of Supervisors, the Governor's Office of Planning and Research, State HCD, and the City of Santa Barbara. And lastly, determine that the preparation and submittal of this report is an activity that is not subject to CEQA. This concludes staff's presentation, and staff is available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. That was very succinct. Does the commission have any questions for staff? So, Commissioner Park.
I do, but I think you're just dying to say something, so I want to give you the opportunity first, even though I know
Really?
being polite that you would want to go last, but I think you
loud.
should go first.
Okay, I had just a couple questions because I don't think they were written on this, and if they're in the staff report, I'm sorry I missed them. But on each slide, so on slide the South Coast RENA, you actually rattled up what type of units they were: ADUs, modular homes, single-family dwellings. So you have that in your notes. Can you repeat that for both South Coast and North County? Of our whopping 85 units.
So for the South Coast, of the 85 units, it was 6 manufactured homes, 61 ADUs, 1 multifamily dwelling of 2 units, and 16 single-family dwellings.
Okay.
No multifamily?
One of 2, a single duplex?
A duplex, yeah.
Woo! Okay, and how about our star North County? It's a star.
So for the North County, there's 157 total new housing units. So 7 of those were manufactured homes. 2 of them were agricultural employee dwellings. 80 of them were ADUs. And there was one building that was a multifamily dwelling that had 3 units in it. And there's also 65 single-family units.
Do you know, were the 65 units, was that part of a subdivision build out or anything like, or is it, does anybody know?
Yes, we believe so. We know there was one project near Santa Maria that was building a lot of single-family dwellings that looked like they're a subdivision project.
Okay. Well, it's just interesting information considering we're planning for so many more units. Anyway. Both Commissioner Parvis first and then Commissioner Reed. Thank you for letting me go.
I think I know what Mr. Reed's going to ask about, so I'm gonna kind of touch on it and then hand it over to him. But first of all, I really love these graphics. It's very clear, and you probably realize we've had what, half a dozen hearings in the last few months that have touched on housing, and it's kind of hard to figure out what's what when it's spread all over. So here's some great summary slides that are totally timely, not only for your purposes of what to be approved today, but for the upcoming housing rezones. And I think that's why Commissioner Briley was asking those questions. I have a request, and I don't want to trigger, a half-hour discussion of procedure here, but I would so love it if instead of me taking notes and losing them, that you could prepare just 2 more slides and somehow append them to this presentation so I could find it when I look in our website. And one slide would be the breakdown of the 85 units that Commissioner Briley asked for. I thought that was fascinating. And then the other slide would be the same thing for the North County, because what I kind of heard for the South County was it was mostly ADUs and a few houses and then 1 duplex. So that's how we're responding to our housing crisis in the South County is we have 1 duplex. And then I can giggle about the North County too, because we worked so hard on the Ag Employee Dwelling Unit Ordinance in 2018. And when I go to things like the Econ Alliance Ag Forum, there's all that discussion of a lack of labor for agriculture and how that is impacted by a lack of housing. And with the H-2A program, I think you have to actually show you have housing before you can bring people in. And we had all of 2 permits to boast of for 2023 for this program. And now I'm going to turn it over. Well, first I want to know, can you do that? Just 2 more slides and somehow communicate them to us. And then I want to turn it over to Commissioner Reed, who I think is probably going to ask a few more questions about the Ag Employee Dwelling Units.
Yes.
Commissioner Park, through the chair, so for your request for that information, that was part of our presentation, so I think we can just put that in a slide deck and add it to the record for this hearing.
It's helpful.
Thank you.
Commissioner Reed.
Okay. So I realize you're just the record keepers. You're not responsible for activity or lack thereof, correct? Okay. So I
She said
notice
cheerfully with a smile.
on your slide, you look at RENA progress, and one of the elements that has a green check mark is AEDs, Ag Employee Dwellings, for which apparently, I believe, according to your statements, you have achieved the county has achieved the princely level of 2 building permits in 2023. I think you said that. I think Commissioner Park just reiterated that. Is that correct?
AEDs in the North County, I believe it was 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, recognizing that it's not really your job to do that, I'd just like to take a moment or two to recognize what a critical issue this is to people that live in the North County. One of the things during the site visits that Commissioner Park and I have conducted relative to the Ag Enterprise Ordinance is almost a consistent message among potential people who'd like to take advantage of that is the continuing grave need for agricultural employee dwellings. Okay, and secondly, as a lifelong resident of the North County, I was gone for about 15 years when I was working in pharma, living in various parts of the country. I left in '85, came back in around 2000. I was flabbergasted, I will say, at the change in the community of Santa Maria and Guadalupe. During that time, there'd been a tremendous increase in grapes and in strawberries, both very labor intensive. And the city of Santa Maria had become the primary bunkhouse for ag workers, which is a direct reflection of the fact that the level of ag employing dwellings, the level of availability in the unincorporated areas of the county is nearly non-existent. It should be greater. I think, and recently we have seen what I thought was a quite meritorious proposal for ag employee housing shrivel and fail before the Board of Supervisors. I would hope that there would be a more robust move on behalf of county to encourage applications and streamlined approvals for agricultural employee dwellings. It would have a great benefit to the ag community, to the ag workforce, and particularly to the communities of Guadalupe and Santa Maria. In Santa Maria, all of the lower end of the housing and rental market is fully occupied, almost fully occupied by ag workers. The mid-level of the housing market has been bought up and converted to residential, to rentals, generally occupied by ag workers. So for many longtime residents, their children, others who want to go to school, come back, get a job, want to pursue the American dream of having a nice rental on the way to buying a home of their own, that's been erased. So I think there would be great benefits to the ag community, to the workers, and to residents of the North County municipalities if we had an effective program to encourage development of ag employee dwellings near where they work. It would also have a secondary benefit. I think if they were well-planned communities, it would offer superior housing to the high-density things most of them are living in, could offer some recreation, a better home for their children instead of in very, very packed dwellings, and would actually revitalize some of the communities. Santa Maria in particular used to be one of the nicest places in the county, but now is often subject to ridicule, particularly since we've seen our residential areas decline due to the fact they have become the de facto and the only available place for ag employees to live and work. So I think ultimately, if the county were really to pursue this kind of a program and give it more than 2 units, that's actually pretty embarrassing. Give it more than the 2 units, it would be a benefit for everyone. And then an additional benefit if people were able to live near where they work. How about a reduction in greenhouse gas and the actually traffic paralysis? I live in the east side of Santa Maria in a pretty nice neighborhood, but all of the main streets, East Main, Donovan, others, Jones, are essentially paralyzed late in the afternoon when all the ag employees come back to town because they have no better place to live than near where they work. So I think it's something that really needs to be addressed seriously. And I realize it's not your job, but I thought this would be a perfect forum to kind of bring that to fore and urge county planners, supervisors, and others to more vigorously pursue this very important element. And I think by doing that, you would certainly satisfy much more of the requirement of providing affordable housing. So thank you for the opportunity. I'll appreciate your support. Thank
You did say 2 minutes, right?
Commissioner Cooney, do you want to add anything other than hmm, 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 our housing numbers? It's expensive to live here. It's expensive to build here. So anyway, okay. Oh yes,
I
Commissioner
mean,
Mark.
I have a statement of optimism because this seems like a irresolvable crisis, but we're making some headway. And I look and see these smart, if not brilliant, young planners and think, when they're my age, we may have solved all this, or at least they'll take a crack at it. So there you go. It's a moment of cheer.
There you go. Thank you.
And,
It's a good
do
way
we
to
need
end.
do we need a motion on this, Mr. Lackey?
We do,
receive and file.
and Chair Bradley, I just wanted to respond to Commissioner Reed's very helpful and important comments. And as the chair and Commissioner Park had mentioned several years ago, at least 3 of you were very involved in the ordinance amendments where we did look at downshifting the ag employee permits. And so that was one effort. There's continuing efforts. And with the board's recent adoption of our housing element, I think, as Commissioner Park had mentioned, there's optimism moving forward. There's new policies in the housing element program. Your commission is going to be looking at rezones. So there's a lot of things queued up from a policy perspective and also implementing programs in the newly adopted housing element that do seek to further identify programs for increasing ag employee dwellings. And so it's not just a downshift permit. There's other issues that the county is going to be needing to work with landowners, county HCD, and others to see, what are the barriers that we need to address to move past those current stumbling points. But I wanted to concur with Commissioner Park is with the adoption of the housing element in the programs and the numbers for each of these subsequent APRs that we see, we hope to see those bars in the positive go up for the number of units being produced. So I think just because we're at the very first year of this 8-year RHNA housing cycle, it looks like a tall hill to climb, but I think there's a lot of policies and programs in place and actions from the board to move those forward.
Oh, I have one question, and so it's kind of housing element related, but I know that the state has come down hard on us, and that's why we have all these numbers in the HEU. So as our bars hopefully go up, what is the tracking mechanism from HCD, and if we don't meet a certain percentage growth, how does that work? Or is that an HEU question? That's not your department. I mean, it is your department, but is that something you can answer? You know what I mean? Like if those bars stay a little bit relaxed like they've been for the last 30 years, then what happens to us?
Chair Bradley, I'll take a stab at that, and I think Brianna can correct me. So for our annual progress reports, as Ms. Alameda had mentioned, these get submitted each year to the state HCD, and they review our progress on our meeting our RHNA allocation. And for the past several years, we've been in non-compliance and therefore subject to SB 35. So they will, we will submit this report before April 1st to the state. They'll review that and likely make the same determination based on where we are currently with our first year of the RHNA cycle. In general, that because it's an 8-year cycle, you can look at, an eighth of that production, whether it be, for the very low North County category, that's 564. So you're going to look at sort of 1/8 of that generally in terms of our progress, but they're going to look at, for our very low and low categories together, what's our, how are we doing in terms of progress? And so it's going to be sort of incrementally of whatever our allocation for that 8-year period. Some years may be very low, but we may make up, in year 2 and 3. And so it'll be an annual review by state HCD of those numbers.
Just comments about that. But keep them to myself. So, do you? Yes, Commissioner Park.
I'd like to make two very simple requests to Mr. Lackey. One, can you get those additional slides in as soon as possible so that we can internalize those and have them ready for when we hear our rezones? And two, I'd like to remind the commission that when we went through the housing element hearing, the attention, of course, was on the very big picture, but we didn't spend a whole lot of time on the policies. It was 25 of them, wasn't it, Mr. Lackey? Something like that? Okay, but it's about that, right? And I think one of them, it might have been number 16, if I remember this trivial thing correctly, was a policy that essentially enabled on-site employee housing for all employers. And it went quite a big step beyond the Ag Employee Dwelling Unit Ordinance, because the Ag Employee Dwelling Unit Ordinance, for a vineyard, for example, would allow housing for the person that prunes the vines, but the person that's working in the storerooms, manning the desk for the wine tasting, is not an ag employee. And so this broader policy could be something of real significance. And I just wonder if some time at the appropriate time, and you'll know it because we're getting into the rezones, that just have a brief summary of those policies to plug in to the process again. I think we'd benefit from it because we couldn't really give it the attention it deserved at the time. Thanks.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. That was an informative report. Appreciate it. Motion, and we actually can go back to the side. We do need a motion as stated on the screen to receive and file. Who wants to make that motion?
Before we go there, I just wanted to point out that we have not received any requests to speak on this item.
Thank you. We have public comment. Yeah. Okay. So I won't even open and close public hearing, but then looking for a motion.
Also move.
Thank you, Commissioner Reed. Second.
I will, and I wanted to recite that we'll receive and file the APR, direct staff to provide the APR to the BOS, OPR, HCD, and CSB. Determine the APR is not subject to CEQA. I just love all these acronyms.
Do a rap song. I want to do a rap song of these acronyms. Yeah. Okay. There we have the motion and second, and everyone say aye. That's right.
Aye.
Aye.
Madam Chair.
Good job, Madam Chair. I think that you were thrown into the breach and reacted with grace and intelligence bordering on adorability. So thank you very much.
So, Madam Chair, just to wrap up, Commissioner Park was, I just want to make sure everybody's apprised of our, just going back to the projection report. So March 6th, we will be here. Again, there's 3 items on that. And then Commissioner Park, you were coming in trailing a little bit later in today, but on March 13th, we'll be back here for the Ag Enterprise Ordinance. We had hoped to go to Santa Maria, but because of some technical difficulties in that hearing room, we're not able to have the hearing up there. So our audiovisual team asked for us to be back down here, so that way we can make sure that we capture the hearing. So I just want to make sure everybody was aware of what our next few meetings were. We'll be here the next 2 meetings. Santa Barbara in the 6th and 13th.
So when do we return to Santa Maria? Because I'm willing to contribute an unlimited supply of personal labor to get this thing accomplished, so I don't have to drive to Santa Barbara again.
So Madam Chair and Commissioner Park, we're actually looking at not being back into Santa Maria until one of the housing element rezone hearings, which is we're looking at maybe the 27th of March. That gives you the opportunity to drive down here 3 more times.
I don't know what you do. Thank you, everybody. Do you? Okay. So, David. I don't know. So the top one spoke.